Hey up everyone, welcome back to another vlog, and as promised I'd try and bring some footage from down my White Acres trip in the last week. It was the Dynamite Bait Festival, second festival of the year down at White Acres. First week I'd fished really well, and then we was heading down there for the Dynamite, and the weather was looking good. You know, I was optimistic of a good week, and yeah, we had a brilliant week weather-wise. My start to the festival wasn't particularly great. Tried to film the first day for you when I was on Python, forgot my lead, so I couldn't film that first day. And to be honest, you didn't miss a great deal. I managed £44, which is about 20 fish. Not massive fish, some F1s, few smaller carp. £62 won the section. So I'm only £18 off. Could have caught that? Possibly. I'd have had to have a perfect match, I think. Done a few things slightly different. But I don't want to sit here and say that I couldn't catch it, because there's 100% potential to catch that if you get the right match and you fish the right way. So not a great start on that one. I only managed to beat two in the section, so terrible in terms of festival positioning. You've got no margin for error all of a sudden, because that is not a counting result if you want to do well in the festival. And then day two, I drew Jenny's peg 8, which is an end peg. It done really well the week previous, but Christian, who I'd been down with, had been on 7 the day before, and he'd said like peg 8 didn't seem to get bites for quite a bit. First day it didn't catch a great deal, and I still went there pretty optimistic, thinking, right, I know if Christian's fished, I know roughly what's happening in the section, and I just struggled for bites, caught nothing for the first 3 hours hardly, and then I got a few bites towards the end, and I only ended up with £26, so again, only managed to beat one in the section. Probably my worst start to a festival in the last 10 years I've been going there, to be fair. So Wednesday I was hoping for a better day. I was on Pollywyn Lake, which is probably my favourite lake on the complex. Not in terms of like you always catch the most fish, but it's a very rewarding lake. There's loads of different features, and every peg is slightly different. I just love the lake. It's just a brilliant lake. We actually scattered my dad's ashes down on that lake. We used to get there every time we used to go to White as kids. We used to get there and go and fish on the point pegs 19, 20, 21, and that was like our ritual for when we used to go down there. We'd get there really early in the morning, leave our house at like 2 o'clock, get there for 7 in the morning, get on the point pegs, get set up, have a breakfast, and we'd have a full day fishing down there, and it was absolutely fantastic. So yeah, it brings a lot of memories, that lake, and I've always done alright on it as well, to be fair. So went in the bag, peg 11, not a peg I would have picked personally. Last time I drew it, I think I had £45, and I caught a lot of fish, but a lot of small fish, not many bonus fish. But totally different this week, a lot more room, and I was quite fortunate that peg 7 never got drawn as well, so I ended up with a ton of room. Everybody had room, but if you take one peg away as well, all of a sudden I had a lot of room. So I was optimistic of a good day. Finally kickstart me festival into action. Try and save a bit of pride, because we couldn't now frame overall in terms of overall positioning. You know, we had two really poor results to start with, but obviously I wanted to try and gain a bit of pride back. So we'll get straight into the video and we'll show you what we caught on the day. So this is where I was actually stopping on the festival, on the Jenny's, on Trelawney Lake. This is actually Trelawney, around about peg 3 and 4. Actually stopped in this one before when first come down ages ago. Lovely little lodges. That was Jenny's Lake. You can see there, when we first got here, the water was 8.9 degrees on the Sunday. First day of competition, I was on Python. This is actually a reading from Python Lake. It was 11.2, and it stayed like that pretty much till about the Wednesday, and then it started to come up as the weather warmed through. So the weather for the day, as you can see from here, nice day ahead. 6 mile an hour winds, not much wind, no rain forecast, 14 degree temperatures, above average air pressure as well. This is actually the start of the match, so peg 11 on Pollywyn, and I was basically going for a 3-line attack, bomb and meat. I didn't feel like feeder was going to be brilliant. I felt like I had more chance of catching on a bomb than I did fishing a little feeder. The water's still quite clear, so I felt like they might spook. And then I've decided to ping pellets on the long pole, feeding 4 mils, about seven and a bit foot there. I always remember it being a little bit deeper, like 8-9 foot, but it must have silted up over the years, as everywhere does. It's just a bit deeper than a full top kit, so I'd say about 7.5 foot maybe. And then I've decided on a meat down the edge approach early doors, just flicking a bit of meat to that pallet. I don't like to leave the bomb too long. Like, if you're going to get a bite, normally quite quick, so very early on I'm just chucking around, just seeing if I can get a few bites, just chucking around my peg. There's actually a little tree stump just behind where my head is, just to the left of my head, and I could see an odd blonde just mooching about there, just a little tiny ripple. I had a few chucks around there, nothing, no liners, anything like that. So it was out on the pole after about 20 minutes. I had 5 or 6 chucks on that bomb, nothing at all, no liners. I've been pinging pellets on this pole, thought right, just see if I can go and get some signs. It seemed like it was quite a slow start on the lake, to be honest, but it doesn't look overly warm here, but it is quite warm, 13-14 degrees, flat calm at the minute. The wind started to pick up though and blow down. Eventually I managed to catch my first fish. Not a big fish, but I was hoping that, as the day went on, the ripple that was coming down towards me would push a few fish down. You can see how much room I've got here to my left as well. Like, how could you fail not to catch, really? So it was only a small stocky to start with, but it's bites, and that's all you want. Just get you off the mark. Hopefully we're just going to have a nice day doing this. I'd set a couple of deep jiggers up as well, just in case. The lads on the high bank, the peg's more to my right, for those that don't know it. They've been catching on the jigger the first couple of days, so I was hopeful that I might catch some of the bigger, older F1s shallow, but that didn't materialise today, so it was just a case of fishing on deck, pinging a few 4s, not going mad with the feed, but again, not just pinging like 5 or 6 pellets either, because it's quite deep and I felt like I needed to drag some fish in as well, so probably feeding 10 to 15 pellets, I would say. Just feeding them twice with a catapult. This is the first better stamp fish that I caught. One of the, I can't remember if this was a little ghost mirror type fish or whether it was a F1 actually. Might have been a little ghosty type one. Yeah, I think it was like a little ghosty type mirror, about £2. Like, there's literally all sorts in here. You don't know what you're going to catch next. You could catch Carassios. You could catch these little new stocky mirrors that they've put in, which are sort of like 6 ounce to £1. There's some smaller mirrors that were in a couple of years ago, which you could catch, like little carp. There's big carp in here. Big old F1s, like 4, 5, £6 things. There's a bit of all sorts, to be honest. So literally went out there, had a couple of bites, and then again couldn't get any no more signs. Just didn't feel like the fish was quite there yet. There were no fizzing on the bottom. So back out on the bomb, and I felt like if I was going to catch, I was going to catch a little bit more to my left. So that was always the plan. But again, I kept seeing this little ripple on the water near that tree stump to my right, which I remember last time I drew it, it was very similar. They just love lingering about little bits of cover and stuff, but no bites, so I thought, right, ignore that. They're so hard to catch, them blondes. You chuck your bomb and a lot of time they spook. So again, like 2 or 3 casts, I just felt at this moment the fish were in shallow water, so even though I hadn't caught on the bomb, I just felt like it was my best chance of potentially catching a carp or 2. And then chucked it a little bit more to the left, sort of in line with that big tree. It's quite shallow over there, I know, because I've been on peg 7 and plumbed it up, and some of the banks have collapsed in, but again, no more signs, so couldn't sit on it forever. You're not fishing for like a handful of bites here. You're trying to catch predominantly F1s and maybe an odd carp. So it was back onto the pole, see if any fish had turned up. Probably like 45 minutes into the match here, and I've probably only got a couple of pound, but missed a couple of bites and then eventually got one. So at this point I thought, there might be some fish in the peg here now. Might took a bit of time to gather them, but few indications, and then I managed to hook one. Just fishing like a 4mm fishery pellet on the hook. I've got some like big 4mm, which are small 6mm if you like. Just a scratting style pellet, which I like putting on the hook, but they were rubbish for some reason. They looked brilliant, but they were no good on the day. And Christian said the same when he was on Jenny's the first day. That's what made me put a fishery pellet on. I thought I'll just try one of these, and that seemed to be better, to be fair. Like gear wise, not fishing overly heavy as well. You need to have gear on that you can land potentially an odd bigger carp. So 013, 16's LWG, little 4mm in the band. Could probably fish an 18's to be honest, but I felt like if I hooked any bonus fish, I wanted to give him the best chance of getting them out. So 16's SLWG, 013, 4-inch hook length. A little fishery 4mm on the hook, just pinging 4mm in. We had a few signs all of a sudden. It felt like the peg was starting to get going now a little bit. You know, not massive fish. Odd older F1 up to £2. Some stockies, a few smaller stockies as well. Probably got like £10 at this point. Once I get this fish in, starting to get some signs. Weight wise, didn't really know what I was fishing for. Like first day, 100 and odd pound won the match. There was a couple of tons that day. This section have been getting one with anything from, I want to say about 60-70 pounds, something like that. So target weight, realistically, I felt I needed to catch 70 pounds to do well. I think 73 pound, the overall eventual winner, Sam Williams, was on the peg to my right, which probably used to be the best section peg down here on Pollywyn, because you can see there that open water. The left hand side of the gap is 13, the aerator is 14, and the right hand point is 15. So 13 and 15 are two really good pegs. I've won off them both in the past. 13's a really good peg because it used to always be this arm, and there used to be 7, 8, 9 anglers sometimes in this arm. Whereas today there's literally myself, 13 to my right, and peg 1's in as well. So 7 obviously didn't get drawn. So there's half as many anglers in, which helps the fishing massively. You just got a little bit more room to draw fish in, and you know, it just makes for better fishing. So the pegging was spot on this week. Obviously I was fortunate today because I'd got 7 empty. I wish 11 had been empty and I'd have been on 7. I think I'd have caught even more, to be honest, because I've been able to get into that shallower water. Again, another little stocky carp, one of the new fish that they put in. Just pinging 4s. I'm surprised at this point I've not had signs shallow or anything like that, just waiting patiently on the bottom and it'd go under. But again, ran out of bites, so it was back on the bomb, and eventually I caught one on the bomb. Not a massive fish, but you know, a small carp, probably £2. I think I had one previous to this as well that I didn't catch on camera. I remember catching a little £3 carp on the bomb. I think this one was second fish on the bomb actually. Just chucking a little bit more to my left. And that wind was starting to push down this way now, which was good. Surely that'd bring a few fish with it. But what it did do as well is it definitely chilled the water a little bit, because at the start of the match you could see an odd blonde F1 cruising about. Real yellow blonde F1, the mint fish, like £3-4, some of them, £5 even. You know, on the Thursday I managed to catch like 3 one after the other, and they were all sort of £4 to £5 fish. So at this point now I'm thinking in my head, even though it doesn't look like it just feels like a lot of fish are in the shallow water. You know, not loads of bites in the deep water as such. I was catching a few on pellets, but I felt like I needed to catch shallow, but they weren't the same volume of fish on that long pellet line. I think you need the older, bigger F1s or even the Crassios, and then you've got a good chance of catching shallow, whereas I was catching a bit of everything on bottom really. Odd older F1, not lots of them. but more like stocky carp, which are not really shallow fish to be fair. So I didn't feel like there was tons of big old F1s there or lots of crassio, and that's why I went back on the bomb and I had a little run on it, caught like 2 or 3 quick fish, and thought, oh, this might be good now. Get another like 2-3 pound fish, so ticking over. Like there's loads of big massive F1s in this lake. Christian had won the match previously the day before from peg 22, which if you look to the part of the island to my right, that's peg 21 behind it. He actually ended up winning the match this day. And then there's an island and the angler facing 21, that's then 22 on the other point. So there's 3 of them on that point. So nothing else on the bomb. I had a quick look where I'd been flicking meat down that left edge. I was convinced I was going to catch some on that, just throwing like 4 or 5 bits of meat there regular. I'd been on it and tried that twice, just a quick look, just to see if there's any sneaky fish there. But halfway through the match, I'd still not caught a fish or had a bite down there. So halfway through the match, I made the decision, look, this is going to be my only chance really, I feel like, catching some fish. I didn't feel like I was going to win fishing the bomb. I didn't feel like I was going to win fishing on the long pole because I didn't feel like they were going to come up shallow, and on the deck the fish were too small. So realistically I felt like this was my only line where I could catch a weight. So I made the decision halfway through the match to start filling it in with ground bait, and I ended up putting in 5 200ml pots, so a litre of ground bait straight in, just to try and draw some fish in. Didn't put anything in this to start with, just ground bait, no particles, no micros, nothing. Just try and get something in the peg, but obviously not overfeed them. Like, it seems like a lot of bait this, but when it's actually down on the bottom, there's not actually much for the fish to actually eat, so it's not actually going to fill the fish up. And I feel like on Pollywyn you have to be positive, you have to draw the fish into your peg. It's not a lake where you can just feed little bits. If there's a lot of F1s in your peg, then you could maybe tap a little bit of meat if you fished a little bit longer or you had a bit of cover and the fish were lingering there. But because I'm fishing pretty close here as well, like top 6, I wanted to fish there so that I could throw my meat as well. Maybe looking back I should have gone a bit further down the bank. What I did there as well is I just changed my hook length. I've gone from a band to a straight hook just so that I could try worm and meat on the hook out long, and put a piece of worm on, nothing, put a piece of meat on, first chuck, sat there. Because I weren't missing lots of bites, I feel like I could sit there and not be striking that meat off on the long pole in the deep water, wasting time. And I caught a decent F1 straight away on it, like 2 pound fish. And I thought, hey, up here, we're onto something here. And I think I managed a run of like 3 fish on this as well. And I felt like it was quite good. I wish I'd have tried it a little bit earlier, to be honest, because it's quite a standy out bait as well, meat. And then obviously, because I've stopped feeding meat in my left hand edge, I made the decision now to feed the top 5. I started feeding meat here, so there's probably just over 2 hours to go. I thought, I'm going to pot that. I'm not going to throw bait there, I'm just going to keep potting it, try and keep everything tight, but feed a little bit more. I might catch a carp there, I might get a run of bigger F1s. I've got my meat spare because I'm not going to carry on feeding it down the edge. So I felt like I still had enough bait to feed a short line, so it was the exact same depth as out long, so I could use the same rig as well. And then I went back out long, piece of meat on the hook, still pinging 4mm pellets, and I think this was the second fish in pretty much as many chucks, to be honest. And this is where I was thinking, hey, this meat might actually be really good on the hook. It's not actually that big of a fish, this is just running a bit scatty. The water's quite clear, so sometimes you get them under your net and they just start to dart about then. So obviously that long line died a little bit. I thought I'm going to have a quick sneaky look in this edge. Probably about an hour and 50 minutes to go here. And I'm feeling like I need to get a bite here. Because at this moment I've probably got about £25, I would say. And it went straight under. And I thought, hey, oh, this is a bit weird. Not fighting much. Didn't know what it was at this point, and then I seen it. And it was actually a big bream. Probably like £2.5, something like that. This lake used to be full of big bream, like 3 to 5 pounders, even some up to probably nearer 6. Like there was some right slabs in it, some real old fish. This probably, yeah, I'd say £2.5. So nice bonus. Not what we want, but you know, £2 in the net, you're not going to moan. So a piece of meat on the hook here, and just kindering ground bait now. I've just got like a large fast release pot. They're probably due out about May, these pots, but brilliant for like ground bait fishing. It's just a pot designed to release your bait from your pot. Just release your bait from your pot nice and quickly. So it's just a case of literally putting it on the water, let it melt out, rig in position. And it was actually best just to fish. You can see I'm fishing this near side of the pallet, a little bit rocky on the far side of the pallet, so I chose to fish it just a little bit closer. And literally next chuck, hooked another bream. Couldn't believe it. But again, like another good one. So they had spawning tentacles on them as well, and they also had the ones I caught the day before on Jenny's was similar. So I feel like some of the skimmers are definitely coming in to the cover to spawn. You know, another couple of weeks and they'll probably start spawning down there, the silvers. Another decent fish. So I think if I can remember rightly, I'd over £30 now. I think I had £28 when I went down the edge, and I remember catching them 2 bream and thought, I've got like £32, £33 here at this point. And then eventually I hooked my first decent fish, which was an F1. And that's what I was hoping to catch here, really, is like them bigger, older, browner F1s, because they're generally like even £2 to £5, but I've seen them £7, £8 in here as well. But you know, regular 2 to 4 pounders, real good stamp fish when you get them. I matched hook baits. I tried maggots, got a few perch on maggots, tried meat. Meat was okay. Worm actually ended up being my best hook bait. You know, half a piece of worm, not too big that I was just singling fish out like big carp, not too small that I caught perch and, you know, nuisance fish as well, but big enough so like I would say a good inch and a bit long piece of worm. And that seemed to be the best hook bait, to be honest. I had a few on maggots. And I started to actually put some maggots in my ground bait. I think that actually drew more silvers in though. That can work well on here, ground bait and maggots, but I feel like as soon as I put them in, it started drawing a few more silvers in, which I didn't really want. And this was my first and biggest fish of the day, proper fish, I would say. If I remember rightly, it might have even been a small carp, about £4 or £5. Run me a little bit around, but I managed to scoop him up. Probably like, from what I remember, about, I think it was a common, about £4. I also remember catching a big F1 about £4 that come in like a bream. I thought it was another bream. It just glided in, which was nice. So yeah, I'm kinder potting ground bait here because I'm getting bites pretty quickly. But on the day, it worked for 2 or 3 fish, and then it felt like I had to big pot again. Like the amount of times I go in kinder, and I do that a lot when even when I'm fishing for carp. Once there's enough bait in my peg, because I've set it up at the start with like 1,000 mil. I don't need to keep piling ground bait in. If you keep piling ground bait in, you know, you can make the F1s back away from it. They don't like lots and lots of bait. So when the fish are there, I'll kinder it. But when they're gone, I need to big pot it again. So after that little run of fish, They went, I put another 200 ml ground bait down there, just let it settle. Had a little look short on this meat line, which I've been setting up, just potting like 50 bits of meat there, sort of every 20 minutes, just keeping a bit of bait going in, not throwing it because I didn't want to lose my accuracy, and just try and keep everything tight. But no bites. Again, didn't feel like there was lots of fish in the deep water. It was full depth there, short, like 7 foot, and I just felt like it was too deep. It was a nice warm day, and the fish just wanted to be in shallow water. So back in the edge, probably about an hour and a half to go or something like that now, and we were straight back in after we'd sort of like settled it for 10 minutes, half piece of worm on the hook, and we went straight in. This might be that big F1 I caught actually. It's coming nice and steady. Be nice if they all come in like that, 4 pound F1s. So you can imagine, like, when you're catching fish like that as well, 4 pound, you're adding your weight up. At this point now, I've had 3 or 4 fish down the edge, and then I've caught that one. Before you know it, you sat on like 45 pound, and you're thinking, I'm building my way up now. And I remember catching one about 9 pound, which I didn't get on camera. And then I caught a little nuisance fish, and then at this point I'm thinking, I don't really want these. Good stamp fish, 5-6 ounce roach, but it's not really what you want. Roach and perch. The stamp was actually quite nice, but they'd gone again basically. So it was another 200 ml pot down the edge, and have another look back on this meat short line. I think there's about an hour to go at this point, and I'm thinking it's got to go under now surely. If there was any fish there, I weren't getting any nuisance fish bites, nothing like that. I felt like it was worth a fish or two, but no, I think it was just too warm on the day, and that meat short. I was looking to the lads to my right on the eye bank, and I think only 40 odd pound won that section. So it told you they'd had 116 pound there the first day when it was a bit cooler, and they caught well there on the second day. But today I feel like it just warmed up a little bit too much, and I feel like shallow water pegs were the boss pegs, or fishing in the shallow water in your peg was the way to go today. So I basically just committed now to fishing down this edge, because I felt like I had 45 pound roughly in my net. I needed a little run towards the end. Like I say, I'd had that carp. I might have even had 50 odd pound here with an hour to go, something like that. And then after that big pot of ground bait, gone back in, and I've hooked another carp. So now I'm thinking to myself, should I start attacking it? Because you only need 3 or 4 decent fish, and all of a sudden you can catch 4 fish for £30. On the actual day, this day, I think I ended up with 4 carp for about £28, which real bonus. Like, that one doesn't look as big. That might have been one of the smaller ones. I might have even had 5 carp actually. Proper. I'm on about proper carp. I had a few sort of 2-3 pounders, but the older carp that have been in for years. And then you just like randomly get an odd F1 out of the blue. It just didn't feel like there were tons and tons of F1s. Like peg 7, which is sort of in line with the cafe to the left hand side of the screen, where there's the 2 trees there together. That's peg 7. You can just reach across to that island there. It's about 14 metres to the island. Brilliant peg. And I've always caught really well there down the right hand margin. So I was hoping them fish would just drift up and I'd catch them here, but maybe I fished a little bit too close to myself. I ended up catching a few here, but if I'd have gone like 14 metres, I might have caught a little bit better. But to be honest, I thought with all that room I'd catch F1s there, and I had a few, but not millions. Another little stocky here. Not millions of the big F1s, whereas you can draw some pegs and you could have £100 of just F1s and maybe 2 or 3 carp, whereas today it didn't feel like there was lots of them big 3-4 pounders. Like Christian had £116 the day before, won the match, and he had a couple of decent carp to bump his weight, but he probably had £70-80 of good stamp F1s. But he could fish to an island as well. He caught a lot of his fish to his island, and then some big monster F1s in his left edge. This was probably one of the bigger carp that I hooked. Probably like £8-9, something like that. Just wanted to run me ragged. Just wanted to end up hitting that far bank, but managed to stop him. Sometimes when they want to run, you need a bit of nerve to do it and confidence in your gear, but sometimes by putting your pole up in the air a little bit above the fish, sometimes stops them. So when it's wanting to run there, I just put my pole up in the air, just sort of like disorientates them. He's starting to come back towards me again now. Obviously they're running like torpedoes, don't lift your pole up in the air, but if you can get your pole above the fish early doors, or whenever you seem to get a chance, it's a good way just to stop them big carp running. Elastic wise here, I'm just using a prototype elastic, but I'm not even going to say what rating it is because we're not fully decided yet. It's like a 2.1mm hollow, but worked really nice, to be fair. Sort of like stopped the F1s dead, and then when I did hook a bigger carp, felt like I had plenty of control on it. So early testing, good signs. I like this elastic, plenty of control with it. You can always tell them carp when you get that nod of the head. They just hate, as soon as you get near your net, they just hate it though, because all they want to do is just steam off because of the clear water. I'm just taking my time here. I know this fish is important. I don't want to risk losing it. I know it's going to be, worth its weight in gold, basically. Couldn't see lots of people catching it at this point as well. Normally you'd see like a mad rush of anglers catching in their edges and stuff, and I was looking to my right, there weren't lots coming out, so again I'm thinking this will get me to like 70 odd pounds. 73 pound was second in the match yesterday. This will probably take me over 70 odd pound. It's probably like, this is probably my fourth carp, something like that. And I switched the camera off right near the end, probably not long after this fish, and I remember catching two big F1s right at the death as well. Felt like they were there right at the death as well, to be honest. But this was one of the big old, probably about £8-9 I would guess. I don't think any of my fish were 10, but they weren't far off. Like I said, I probably had 4 for 28 pounds, something like that. So with like 15 minutes left of the match, I'm thinking to myself, right, I've hooked a carp, let's be positive, put some more ground bait in, rather than going back in with a kinder, 200mm, and hope for a big F1 or a big carp to sort of finish off. I went back in and hooked another one, not a massive fish, but another decent F1. They were definitely there at the end. I got lucky with that one. It just pinged off at the net and managed to just get the net under him. Again, just fishing worm. It's probably about 2.5 foot here. Probably a little bit, I say a little bit too shallow, but if it was any shallower than what it was, they might not have come in that close. I'm only fishing top 6 here. I'd have probably caught in 2 foot further down the bank if I tried to get a little bit shallower in, but yeah, you got to be careful sometimes. Like, having that depth's a good thing. See there now, didn't big pot it, just went back with kinder and it weren't enough. I thought, well, they hadn't ate all that bait. There's plenty of bait there left, so I just went in. Maybe that fish just come to the cloud a bit. I went back in. Not long left here. Yeah, that was actually the end of the match. I think I turned the camera off then. But I managed to finish with a couple of fish. The water got to 12.9 degrees. Bearing in mind it was 8.9, it's come up 4 degrees in 4 days. So the fish are loving that. There's Mark, who weighs us in. Got us every time he asked for a catch shot. He did a cheeky selfie on everyone's phone, so put him in. There's the fish. And a couple of blondes. I actually mugged that blonde. You see one of the decent carp to the right, and then them 2 decent bream, and some stocky fish as well. So yeah, great day. So as you can see, we ended up second in the match. We had £82. Mark Poppleton ended up winning the match. He had £86 off 21. I could see him catching, some F1s and that throughout the day. He caught pretty steady, to be fair. We did lose a decent F1, about £4. I think it was very last chuck, to be honest, but it was foul luck. So yeah, swinging roundabouts. So yeah, results wise, you can see there, if you want to have a look at the results, just pause it, you'll be able to have a little read through. But £82, Mark Popson won it with 86, and we finally caught some fish. The last 2 days of the festival, the next day, I was off to Twin Oaks, so that was day 3, finally got myself a section win. The next day I drew 6 on Twin Oaks, and I was like, I don't believe it, you don't normally want to be there. It's normally like quite a poorish area. I'd look back through the results for a bit of inspiration. I think the best weight was £59 the day before I drew it, but peg 8 weren't drawn, so we had like 2 or 3 spare pegs as well. But I thought, well, he's had £52 to its left as well. Go there, optimistic. Always try and stay positive. And again, I just thought I'm just going to keep it simple. I didn't feel like there was lots of fish eating pellets on the long pole, and I thought I'm not going to do my normal pellet thing. I'm just going to have a really negative match, just keep everything nice and tight, and hopefully just pick off an odd fish. And Scott Puddy had actually said to me that the lad who had £59, he only caught 8 decent fish, so I thought, perfect, I'm going to fish meat. So I ended up just tapping a few bits of meat on long poles, like 3 or 4 bits of meat, and I think I had about £10 on that, but I caught the majority of my fish, maybe had a bit more, maybe £15 on a long pole. Majority of my fish come on bomb and meat, fishing like a 10mm piece of meat, size 12 QM1, 8-inch hook length, hole 22, just chucking it along the far bank, very similar to what I did on Pollywyn, and today it worked for me. Went round, and I ended up catching probably 5 decent carp on it, some big F1s, just had a real nice day. And I think the reason I actually caught that day is the wind was blowing down to peg 2, it swung round, and I think it was just pushing some fish down the lake. And obviously as they're passing through, I've managed to catch a few, and then Andy Levers on the end peg 2, he started catching really well, and he had about £80 when I had like £55-60. And I didn't realise, to be fair, that he had that. I thought I was maybe winning the section with like an hour and 40 minutes to go. But Andy had said he'd had 4 fish for about £38, so obviously I didn't see him catch them or see they were that big. And I was just having a nice day, to be honest, and I was like, oh God, I thought I was doing better than I was. And then Andy stopped catching because the wind swung round halfway through the match, and he just stopped catching that last hour and a half. He was down on peg 2, and I seemed to have another little run again on the feeder, on the bottom, and then I had a really good run short late on where I caught like 2 decent carp for about £18, 3 massive blondes for about £12. I caught £30 in literally 20 minutes, something like that. 5 fish in 20 minutes, and I'd gone from like £60 to £90 and felt it was quite close again. And then I finished off with another good run, short as well, I caught a few more bigger fish, and I ended up with £127, and I actually ended up winning the match. So I got my second section win, actually had a match win as well, so first and second in match, and hopefully the pride was restored and I was back on track. And then last day of the festival, I drew 23 Trelawney, absolute brilliant peg. I'd take it every festival I fish, but I looked at it and I thought, there's a lot of room on the lake here. Peg 30 was the end peg, 32 had not been drawn, 1 and 2 weren't pegged, 18 had not been drawn as well, so either end of the lake had quite big gaps. The other side of the lake was every other peg as well. And then where we are, because it's a good consistent area, it was pegged 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. So you got sort of like 6 anglers in a line, which normally when the lake's full, it doesn't matter because the fish will go there because it's the widest bit of the lake. But there just didn't seem to be any fish there. I really struggled for like 3 hours fishing bomb and meat short, and then I chose to, because I wasn't doing no good in the festival, I chose to fish caster shallow and attack it and hopefully, just go for the match win basically on the last day, which was probably a little bit of a mistake because early doors I didn't manage to put anything in the net. Probably should have fished a little feeder, I might have caught a few more fish, but we all sort of struggled on that little point, which is normally real good consistent area. And I ended up coming third in the section. I had £52. Scott Puddy won it on the end with £78. So big well done to Scott. And the match was actually won on the end, peg 30, with £102. He weren't in my section, but he had £102. So it was obvious, like, there weren't lots and lots of fish in that normal area that there is. So a little bit of disappointing finish because I felt like, I'm on a bit of a roll now, and it's just sort of like finished my week off, which sort of summed my week up. So we ended up 21st in the festival, which probably one of my worst finishes in the last 10 years there, to be honest. I've had a good run at it, so I can't moan. I'm not grumbling. It's still quite cold. The fishing was patchy in areas, but it is what it is. Like I say, I've had lots of good pegs down there, and I'm sure I'll get lots of good pegs again in the future, but this week definitely suffered with a few of my draws. But that's fishing, it's the way it is. The conditions have a massive change and effect on what's going to happen. If the wind had blown blown the other way a couple of days, I could have had a totally different festival. So yeah, it is what it is. But that was one of my best matches of the week, Pollywyn. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Overall, in terms of the festival, just before we finish, massive well done to Sam Williams. He ended up having 5 perfect wins, fished a blinder of a week, so big well done to him. Trig, Craig Edmonds was second. He's mega consistent, won his previous 2 festivals. He actually told me when I said to him, that's my worst result in 10 years, he actually said to me, yeah, that's my worst festival as well in 4. So yeah, he's not been out of the top 2 in the last 4 festivals, so typical Trig, winding me up as usual. But yeah, top angler, big well done to him. And he just pipped young superstar Brad Lucas into 3rd place by 3 ounce. So big well done to Brad as well. And then my mate James Howarth, he ended up 4th. He had 4 wins as well, as did Ben Hagg. So the top 5 all had 4 wins. So I was never going to get 4 wins off that set of draws, but very unlucky for James. He was winning festival right up until the last day, and I felt like it was his festival to be won as well, to be fair, but didn't draw particularly great on the last day. 19 Jennies, 15 and 16 have been quite dominant, and he was only like 1 good carp away from actually winning the festival. He was only like, I think £1 cost him second and £4 cost him winning the festival. So yeah, I felt a bit for my old mate James there, who's been mega consistent there as well. So yeah, very unlucky to him. But we all have them tales. I've lost festivals by 9 ounce and I've won festivals by ounces as well. So it's just the way it goes. We'll keep going. We're back down there for the Guru. I'm going to have plenty of fishing in between there as well, so I'll try and keep putting a few more up as and when I can. And I'll try and do one when I get back down the Guru again. Probably try and do a different lake from Pollywyn this time. It's hard for me to film, it's impossible for me to film every day. You just don't get the time to edit it. The videos are too long, you got to watch it back, and obviously I'm on holiday at the same time as well, so I've had to wait till I get home, and then I've edited this today and I'll get it up for you ASAP. Hopefully, we're only sort of 4 days after when we fished, so it's still quite relevant, and it gives you an idea of Whiteacres if you've never been before. Fishing's absolutely fantastic down there now. Loads more bites than what there's ever been because there's a lot more sort of stocky fish, which is great for the future. Loads of F1s, loads of Crassios, little stocky carp, still some big carp as well. But the future's looking really good down there. So yeah, can't wait to get back on the Guru. The fishing should be a little bit better again because obviously the weather's going to warm up, but there will be more anglers on it, so the pegging will be a little bit tighter. But yeah, it is what it is. You want to fish with as many anglers on the festival as possible. So hopefully it's 120 pegs sell out, and we'll have a good festival. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that, and we'll see you on the next vlog.